About 1,500 years ago, in the year 536, one of the strangest natural events ever recorded occurred on Earth. One day, there were no issues, but the next, sunlight suddenly dimmed, and the sun could no longer shine as brightly as it should, whether in the morning or at noon. At first, this event was dismissed as an ordinary and temporary natural phenomenon, but that was far from the truth. In fact, as days passed, the situation worsened instead of improving, and daylight almost completely disappeared. This led to a sudden drop in temperatures, the destruction of crops, famine, and caused people to live in prolonged panic and disease. So, what exactly happened in the year 536, and what blocked the sun? The first written records of such an event come from Byzantine historians of the 6th century. Procopius, the official historian of the Byzantine army tasked with documenting Emperor Justinian's campaigns, wrote that in 536, the sun stopped emitting light, the sky remained hazy for months, and this situation even affected people's moods. Procopius likely made these observations in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire at the time. Moreover, records from different regions during the same period contain similar accounts. For example, Cassiodorus, a statesman and writer in Italy, noted in his official correspondence that the sun had dimmed, summers felt like winter, the sky lost its brightness, and seasons became chaotic. Chinese records mention snowfall in the summer of 536, crops failing to sprout, and famine causing numerous deaths. Similarly, historical documents from Japan and Korea describe how people were helpless against strange natural phenomena, with some rulers interpreting these events as divine punishment. In short, both Eastern and Western civilizations recorded this event, and people, within the framework of their beliefs, sought explanations. Some regions saw an increase in religious rituals, while others turned to ancient gods, offering sacrifices and prayers. One of the most striking pieces of evidence comes from Scandinavia, where gold objects were deliberately left in swamps. These gold items, dated between 530 and 550, may have been offerings to appease the gods, as people feared the arrival of Fimbulwinter, a mythological event in Norse lore signaling the end of the world. Where the sun disappears, a long winter begins, and great destruction follows. The events of 536 mirrored this legend. The sun dimmed, temperatures dropped, and famine ensued. People, believing Fimbulwinter had come, sacrificed valuables to halt the apocalypse. Such reactions were understandable, as a famine was so severe that weakened populations became vulnerable to diseases, leading to mass deaths. Historical record from China described widespread starvation, while rural areas elsewhere were left barren, and cities descended into food riots. What blocked the sun? Until the 1990s, almost no research had been conducted on this strange event from 536, as it remained buried in the footnotes of history. The only clues came from scattered and fragmented accounts from different regions. However, in the 1990s, dendrologist Mike Bailey presented evidence of abnormal tree ring narrowing in 536 at an archaeology conference in Ireland. Tree rings grow annually, with their thickness reflecting climatic conditions. Wide rings indicate warm, sunny, and wet years, while narrow rings suggest cold, dark, and dry periods. Bailey's research showed extreme narrowing in tree rings from Ireland, North America, and Northern Europe in 536, suggesting a global climatic anomaly. This discovery prompted further investigations, particularly into polar ice cores, which preserve atmospheric conditions over millennia. Ice layers revealed unusually high sulfur deposits around the 530s, indicating massive sulfur dioxide emissions that formed a sulfuric acid haze in the upper atmosphere. This haze blocked sunlight, causing prolonged cooling. Possible causes: volcano or asteroid. Only two events could produce such a haze: a massive volcanic eruption or an asteroid impact. Researchers first checked for rare elements like iridium, which would suggest an extraterrestrial impact, but found none. No giant craters from that era were discovered, and no civilizations recorded a massive celestial collision. Instead, ice core evidence pointed to a volcanic eruption. The sulfate deposits matched volcanic activity, and their presence in both hemispheres suggested an equatorial eruption. Historical Chinese records from February 535 mention a tremendous noise in the southeast sky, possibly indicating a volcanic eruption in Indonesia, home to some of the world's most active volcanoes. Local legends in Java describe an ancient explosion that darkened the sky and split the land, possibly referencing Krakatoa. However, geological studies found no evidence of Krakatoa eruption in 536, and the chemical profile of the sulfate did not match Krakatoa's lava. Alternative suspects: Iceland or North America. Researchers then turned to Iceland, where volcanic systems like Elja had erupted massively in 939 to 940, causing global cooling. Some theorize that Elja or another Icelandic volcano might have erupted earlier, in 536, but no evidence of such an event was found. Another candidate was the Mono Lake region in North America, known for young volcanic formations. However, geological studies found no major eruption there in the 530s. The leading theory: a tropical volcano. Currently, the most plausible explanation is a massive tropical volcanic eruption, possibly underwater. The 2022 Hunga Tonga eruption demonstrated how underwater volcanoes can inject vast amounts of gas and ash into the atmosphere. If the 536 event was caused by an underwater volcano, its traces might have eroded over time, making it harder to identify. Some scientists also suggest that multiple mid-sized eruptions across different regions could have combined to create the prolonged haze. This would explain why both hemispheres were affected and why the cooling lasted years. The aftermath: plague and societal collapse. The volcanic winter of 536 didn't just cause famine, it triggered one of history's deadliest pandemics, the Justinian Plague 541 to 542 AD. Originating in Egypt, the plague spread via trade routes to Constantinople, where overcrowding and poor hygiene accelerated its spread. At its peak, tens of thousands died daily. The Yersinia pestis bacterium thrived in the weakened post-famine population, killing an estimated 18 to 40 million people in its first wave. The plague recurred for centuries, reshaping politics, economies, and cultures. The Byzantine Empire's ambitions to reclaim lost territories crumbled, while Europe's descent into the Dark Ages accelerated. Conclusion: the eruption of 536 was no ordinary event. It plunged the world into darkness, famine, and disease, altering the course of history. While the exact volcano remains unidentified, its impact is undeniable, marking the beginning of one of humanity's most challenging eras.